65 miles an hour, a little fast, but not that fast. And it's kind of a safer environment, if you will, than some of those little neighborhoods we saw him driving through earlier.
And again, in the Rose Hills area, northbound 605, and what about 20 minutes ago, we saw the first physical activity of this guy here, throwing something out the window. He's since pulled that off, pulled back on doing that. Window rolled up, white T-shirt, seatbelt on, now just cruising down the 605 freeway. Speeds, as Will said, about 70 miles an hour. But again, a number of black and whites behind this guy. And again, people at home can play armchair quarterback all they want and ask why, again, aren't police agencies, pitting this guy or doing this or doing that. But again, Will, with each different law enforcement agency, there are different protocols on what to do and how to do it.
Right, and the speeds are actually a little bit too high for pitting somebody. That usually happens around 40, maybe 50 miles an hour, but we're going at least 70 miles an hour, so that's not going to happen. We've just passed the 60 on the northbound side of the 605, and the next major thing will, of course, be the 10 freeway to the north. He has several off-ramps before then.
And it looks like he came close to one vehicle there, but really just has been sort of alone on the freeways as we look at much lighter traffic than usual because of this Memorial Day holiday. So, you see him passing them. Other than that one vehicle that I guess tried to maybe make contact, he's just sort of passing everyone along at a higher rate of speed as the pursuit continues.
Yep, and it's wide open ahead for the most part. As I look out the window, it is really a calm day for freeway driving. It's pardon the pun, but I mean, if this is a perfect day for a pursuit, if you're going to get in one, I guess, because there's not a lot to stop you up ahead, unfortunately, or fortunately, because that means fewer drivers are endangered by this.
Maybe for the suspect, not so much for law enforcement agencies here. But again, we are heading. Are we still on the 605 northbound?
We are on the 605 northbound. We're going to be crossing Valley Boulevard, and that's the next major. Lately, or at least since he's been on the 605, hasn't shown a great tendency to want to get off this freeway.
Right. I mentioned not too long ago that this seems to be the longest stretch of time that he's actually remained on the freeway. And again, we recounted the number of black and whites and not too long ago, Will, and you also mentioned that perhaps the LA County Sheriff's Department would take over. Do we see any evidence of that?
It was the CHP who might take over because we're exclusively on freeway. It looks like we're going to get off now. We're getting off the freeway. It looks like it's going to be either Valley Boulevard or someplace very close to it here on the northbound side of the 605.
And what's the next major? I mean, he's going much slower here as he's coming off, but what's the next major freeway that he could get back on?
Well, the 605, he's stuck. He's going over a curve there. He's next to a wall, a fence, going around traffic. Sees brake lights. Oh my gosh, there's a bike. Oh boy, that was close. Close call. This is exactly the type of thing that they're hoping to avoid in this situation. So close there.
Yeah, that person was right on the corner. I mean, if they hadn't stopped himself there on the bike, it got very, very close there as he's now on just a street here. Can you tell us where he is right now?
Yeah, I believe he's on Valley Boulevard, and we are headed eastbound on Valley. Yep. So this is kind of almost the Pico Rivera area, Valley Boulevard, back on surface streets here. And this driver, unfortunately, has shown a real tendency on surface streets to be quite dangerous.
Yeah, let's talk about the game plan. Things sort of ramp up when now you're on surface streets as opposed to an open freeway, Will, because you have, we just saw a pedestrian there on a bicycle. This is a Memorial Day weekend. You have kids who are out of school, who are spending the day out with their families. You have parks nearby. So what is now protocol now that it's on a surface street?
Well, this is just, at this point, the police agencies, law enforcement, just want this guy to give up and surrender. This is their worst nightmare in terms of what you just said, going into crowded communities where there may be a lot of pedestrians. And we're on Valley Boulevard headed eastbound, just getting away from the 605 freeway.
And it looks like he's just continuing there along there. And we're actually mapping this, Will, as we've been talking about where he's gone in and out. And it really does look like he just made a continuous circle back where he started in that Southgate, Pico Rivera area, going through different cities in and around, but sort of staying in that circular pattern of this one particular area.
Right, and in fact, what my understanding is that this may have begun kind of where we are right now, near the 605. So we arrived on the scene when it was kind of in the 710 Firestone area, but yes, much earlier in the day. Apparently, this started just about here. Oh, he's going to hit that car. Or I'm not sure if he made contact, but this driver
he made contact.
He made contact. It looks like it did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
For a second there, it actually didn't look intentional. It looked as if he lost control of the vehicle there for a second.
And again,
it really
we saw him do that. Remember when he rolled down the window, was tearing some paper and throwing paper out, where he ran into a wall. He might be doing something inside the car, not focused on actually driving. Maybe had lost control. It seemed like he did something there in that moment. Now he's sort of refocused and, well, not in the lane, but definitely driving at this point.
And I think it was about 11:30, Lolita. Law enforcement actually attempted a spike strip. Wrong side of the road here. Once again, we got these reports early on in this chase here, that this is exactly what he's doing before. But again, a number of black and whites here behind. So again, it looked as if he lost control there for a little while, but it didn't look intentional. But again, I'm not going to make the call here. But again, still on surface streets here. And again, the drive-in here seems to be ramped up quite a bit.
We just turned southbound, I think, on Hacienda, and we're now southbound on Hacienda. Pretty empty streets, and it was really scary for a moment there with that white vehicle that it bumped into. It was hard to tell if it was intentional or not, but certainly some terrifying moments for the people in that vehicle. Oh, and we've got another intersection that people are trying to get through. Luckily, he has not hit anyone in one of these intersections, and he just kind of blows through the light. By the way, I should mention, every single stop sign, every light that's ignored, they count all that up. They certainly they keep a record of every single violation, and they just tack it on in the end.
And do we see any, Will, you're curious, we talk about the vehicles, law enforcement following from behind. Anything ahead of this vehicle as they see him sort of having this pattern? Any vehicles, law enforcement ahead of them?
Well, when we were back near the 710 and Firestone and kind of going around in circles, that neighborhood gave the officers time to set up. They could kind of just set up and close intersections and things like that. Now that we're in a whole new part of town, not really. There's no real way of knowing where this guy's going, apparently, at this point. So they're just kind of along for the ride, just as we are, unfortunately. They do their best to try to close intersections and keep people safe so that traffic doesn't cross and get in the line of fire. But it is very difficult to predict something like this.
This has been going on for well over an hour, and it makes you wonder with the officers that are in pursuit of this stolen-car suspect here, when is enough enough? Again, we talked about the pit maneuver, but again, not every law enforcement agency
getting on the freeway
is trained to pit a particular car. So again, speeds would, tell most folks that, yeah, a little over 35 miles an hour within that 35 to 40 mile an hour range would be a good time. And again, I'm looking at the rear passenger wheel once again, and it looks as if something's wrong with it, Will.
Yeah, it looks a little strange there. I think what it is just the hubcap covering there is missing. And I think that's all it is. So you're seeing is like a sticker going around and around. But we're now on the 60, eastbound on the 60 freeway.
All right,
He's getting right back on the freeway here, yeah.
So again, just a location once again, Will.
60 freeway, this is just away from 7th, basically Hacienda Heights on the 60 freeway headed eastbound.
Okay, so again, we see a new freeway for this driver here. But again, this pursuit has been going on for well over an hour. We've seen some pretty close calls. At one point, I think it's just a little after 11:30. Again, we see some erratic driving as he goes over the median here on the right side of your screen, squeezes through, and you see right there, someone on a bicycle nearly is hit by this person here.
The closest call we've had.
Yeah, eases his way back in traffic. Now you see units behind him again, once again in pursuit. But again, that bicyclist, and that's what we've been talking about for well over the past hour, and that is, this is a holiday weekend. Kids are out of school. People are not working today. They're out enjoying the sunshine, whatever. They're in parks. They're roaming the streets. And again, that's just proof of exactly how dangerous this pursuit is.
And when we see the moments ago on the right side, that was the last time he had actually come off the freeway. We had talked about earlier that he was coming on and off, but he had been a long stretch of time on that freeway before he came down and had that near miss with the bicyclist there, and now he's back on the freeway as we're looking at the live portion of where he's in, and exactly where we are right now, Will.
Eastbound side of the 60 past 7th Avenue, so it's still kind of the Hacienda Heights area, and the next major thing, well, we're of course continuing eastbound. You're going to start heading into the Inland Empire, that area, but right now, speed's kind of average, looks like about 60 miles an hour on the eastbound side of the 60.
And earlier we saw the driver moving around inside. He'd actually thrown some things out of the vehicle. From your vantage point, well, are you seeing him do anything other than drive at this point?
No, I'm seeing the window up. We had the window down there for a while where he was tossing stuff out, as you mentioned. At one point, a huge stack of papers. Not sure what that was about. But we are, it looks like fairly calm driving now. Not erratic, but certainly is kind of riding a line there, not really choosing one lane over another. So basically the officers behind him at this point really want to end this pursuit because it's just getting...
Okay, so again, moments ago you see the video there on the right of your screen. Paper being thrown out, and Lolita and I were talking about this being the only physical movement this guy has made, and it all happened within probably a span of about 3 minutes. But we actually saw him physically rip up some paper there in his lap as he was driving at high speeds, I might add, and throwing it out the window. And again, we talked about how everything that's being thrown out, every light that is run, every stop sign that is blown through, being collected as evidence. And again, they're keeping a tally of exactly what's been happening for well over an hour here.
Right. This started off as a stolen vehicle pursuit out of the Southgate area, but Southgate police tell us that because he hit a car then, we've seen him either near miss, we're not going to assume, but near miss or at least come close enough that it looks like he hit another vehicle from that initial vehicle that he hit in the Southgate area, another new charge, assault, on top of whatever else he's facing because of the way he's driving this vehicle. And it's a danger that he poses to those on the road and on the street, as we saw with the bicyclist who had a near miss when he came off of the freeway.
Innocent bystanders, we might add. Again, we saw with our own eyes how he sideswiped that van. It looked as if he had lost control of his SUV. But again, the charges continue to rack up against this guy, and he knows it, and that's perhaps why he continues to run from police. And I might add a large contingency of police officers who are there on the ground with him. Of course, the airship that is overhead that continues to track his every move.
Eastbound side of the 60, we're past Santa Anita now, heading into what would be... there's a CHP vehicle coming up, taking the lead. So they've asked the CHP to take over this pursuit, and that's what we're seeing right here, eastbound side of the 60 past Santa Anita.
So with this handover or handoff, well, what are we going to see differently that we haven't seen over the last hour?
Well, the CHP, very, very effective at ending pursuits like these on freeways using the pit maneuver, spike strips. The freeways are their domain. It makes sense. It makes sense that the.
Will, if I can interrupt you for 1 second, because we have a programming note here. We just want to tell that if we are staying with this chase. For those of you who are tuning in for the French Open, you're not missing much of anything. It was a complete and total rainout. So again, we are going to stay on this pursuit right here, a pursuit that continues here. An hour-plus long pursuit, Lolita.
Yeah, absolutely. Began around 10:45 this morning. Calls coming in at around 11 to Southgate Police when it started in that area, and we've been following it ever since as this driver on and off freeways, in residential areas, in industrial areas, and through alleys that he seems to know because he's getting on and off of freeways and staying within several cities. So we've seen him go through Cudahy, Paramount, Southgate, areas that he seems to know, and it's usual for drivers in pursuits like this, according to law enforcement, when we've spoken to them about pursuits, that this is what these folks try to do. Now it looks like eastbound 60 on near Roland Heights. On the wrong side now, or where is he right now, Will?
Yeah, yep, no, you're right. We're eastbound on the 60 here. We just looks like we are coming up on Fairway Drive. Will be the next major that he could get off at. It doesn't seem like he's interested in getting off the freeway at this point, where earlier we were seeing on the freeway, off the freeway, around in circles. Now we're just headed eastbound on the 60, kind of towards the Diamond Bar, or actually eventually the, Pomona area right now, and then Diamond Bar and perhaps places east.
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with this area. My in-laws live out there. So, again, it's Rowland Heights, Walnut, Diamond Bar, Pomona, into the IE. So, again, we're looking at what we talked about not too long ago there on the right side of your screen. We saw him sideswipe that van there, innocent bystander within that van. Again, it looked as if he lost control somehow and then perhaps overcorrected, got back control and again, continued. But, again, that was on surface streets. We're now on the 60 eastbound freeway as we make our way through Rowland Heights, through Walnut, and presumably out into the IE.
In 12:01 now, we've been following this one for well over an hour. We want to remind folks who are tuning in, if you're looking for the French Open, it is a total rainout. We'll get back to highlights from the weekend after the chase ends, but for now, we're going to stay on this that we've been following for you since about 10:45 this morning.
So again, Southgate police were in pursuit of this stolen car suspect. We have since learned over the past 5 minutes or so that you see the unit closely behind this guy here. CHP has now taken over. And Will, I had to interrupt you before, but again, we've seen Southgate police tailing this guy, but not making any type of aggressive move. Are we going to see something different here with the CHP?
We may. If the speeds are low enough, they may attempt a pit maneuver, but at this speed, probably not. What we will see is they have the resources, miles ahead to place those spike strips. Throughout the state of California, wherever this guy goes, there will be the CHP. So that's one thing that the CHP has on its side, the ability to put spike strips and just get ahead of this pursuit.
Okay, I knew that the 57 transition was coming up here on the 60. Have we passed that as of yet?
We have passed there was right there, the ability for him to head south or north. So we are continuing eastbound here on the 60.
And this stretch of freeway, I know, is typically gridlocked at this time of day on any given day of the week. But again, holiday light, but folks will soon be heading back from their vacation destinations. Those folks heading back from Palm Springs, for example, on the 60 or even on the 10 freeways. But again, we see more vehicle traffic now than I think we've seen in a while here as he makes his way eastbound on the 10 freeway through Walnut.
Mm-hmm. Eastbound on the 60 here through Walnut. Right now, he's behind a little bit of a overpass thing there. There we go. It's really light. Now, I see a little heavier traffic on the westbound side. So if this turns around, as it has so many times already today, and he heads westbound, it'll be a little more difficult for him. But certainly eastbound, it looks clear ahead.
And does it look like he is going to continue to pursue and stay on the freeway, or maybe try to get off again? Does it always look like he's about to pull off, or?
Right now, he's staying kind of in the middle to left lane, so that would seem to indicate that he plans to stay on the freeway. But we've also seen a couple times before where that driver has done that and then quickly jumped over. So we are eastbound on the 60. We're past the initial 57 split. As you know, it splits twice there, so the southbound split has already passed, as it were. And now, if he wanted to go northbound, doesn't look like he's going to do that.
Yeah, you talk about how CHP can deploy a spike strip well ahead of the chase here. But again, it's sort of dicey and tricky because obviously you have other vehicles on the freeway. So, again, it's almost as if their options are limited at this point and they can't do much but follow this guy.
The options are limited, and he certainly has shown that he is unpredictable. So we are eastbound again on the 60, and now we see it looks like a motorcycle unit joining the pursuit there. That's kind of unusual. We don't often see a lot of motorcycle units join pursuits because the pursuits are inherently dangerous, obviously, and a lot of times they are very vulnerable to whatever's going on in that pursuit without the protection of a vehicle around them.
All right, Will, really quickly, 12:05 here right now. We just want to tell you folks that we're staying on this chase. For those of you who tuned in to watch the French Open, again, you're not missing much of anything. This is a complete and total rainout. So, again, just to let you know, we are going to stay on this pursuit right now. Again, heading eastbound on the 60 freeway, just past Diamond Bar, and I believe the next city would be Pomona as we stretch into the IE.
Mm-hmm.
Right, absolutely. Diamond Bar, Pomona, eventually Ontario if we keep going east and points beyond.
Interestingly enough, this is the farthest he's been from that area where he had kind of continued to stay around that Southgate Cudahy, Bell, Paramount area. Now he seems to really have strayed from here. And I know we can't see it from our vantage point on this side, but he did have that right tire that either had something missing from it, or it was hard to tell what it was. Will, does it look like he's losing any type of control, or just steady as we go here?
It looks pretty steady as we go. It would not appear the way the vehicle is running that it's ever run over a spike strip yet. We did see the vehicle kind of get out of control when the driver was busy trying to toss out papers and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, he was obviously distracted, or she distracted with that, whatever was going on there, to the point that he nearly lost control.
Yeah, and again, I think, Will, you pointed out it looked as if, because I initially thought that it was something that happened to the back passenger tire. I think I mentioned it a couple of times, but it just looks as if with the speed that the hubcap is now off, and it
right.
looks a little, excuse my French, a little janky, but I think it's okay, because
I was thinking janky, wonky,
yeah,
something like that, right?
Wonky, janky, I can't find the right word.
Yeah, right.
But again, at these speeds, as you mentioned, well, there is no way that you know, the tire is impaired at this point, because the speeds in itself are just too much.
Right. This pursuit's been so unpredictable. The police really haven't had an opportunity to get set up for a spike strip. Now that we're on the freeways headed eastbound into the Inland Empire, that may all change.
Yeah, and again, we mentioned before that these are ideal conditions for someone in a pursuit, not those who are pursuing. But again, open freeways. And I only think about, you know, folks who are gearing up, packing up to head back home from their destination. So, again, open roads right now, but things could change the further east this guy goes. So, again, heading out into the IE, the Palm Springs area, again, don't know how far this guy's going to go. But, again, you know, the landscape could change very quickly.
We've just passed the 71 freeway, if you're familiar with that, eastbound on the 60 here. And looking up ahead, it's pretty calm, as you mentioned, holiday light on the freeways.
And Will, how important is it now that the CHP has sort of taken over this chase, as we get into areas that he hasn't been before, that they are sort of the lead in this particular area, instead of the local law enforcement that had been sort of coming in and out of this pursuit?
Well, whenever they move from one area to another, the CHP will actually hand it off to the local officers in that area who are more familiar with it. So, in other words, if you're coming from Orange County and you headed into L.A., you would probably not end up with the same CHP vehicles following you, and that's by design. People know their beat a little bit better, their local beat. So, we're approaching Reservoir now on the eastbound side of the 60 here in the Pomona area.
So, Will, really quickly, if this chase stays on the freeway, obviously it's going to be the CHP's handle. If it's back on surface streets within a particular municipality or jurisdiction, does that local law enforcement agency then take over, or is this going to stay the CHP's handle?
At this point, it's up to the CHP. Generally, it's always up to the first agency that starts the pursuit, which in this case would be the Southgate Police, I think. But they have backed off, and once they release it, it's pretty much going to be the CHP's handle from this point onward, unless he stays exclusively on surface streets in one particular city. But pretty much the CHP, I mean, they can handle pursuits on the surface streets or the freeways. Oh, you saw people on that overpass apparently waving signs or something. That was kind of bizarre, but this pursuit's been on the air long enough to, you know, where...
And we're losing our signal there, but as we talk about this, Jason, we've been following this one for quite a long time, since about 10:45. As we rejoin, Will, let's just catch you up where this all began. Southgate Police first initiated this pursuit. Call of a stolen vehicle. They tell us a man in the vehicle that we've been seeing in a gray SUV or some sort of minivan was driving around, stolen vehicle. They go to try to get him, and then he takes off again, and that's when the pursuit really got going. Yeah,
and primarily it's we've seen a long stretch of this guy driving on the freeway. Now, we now know it is a male behind the wheel, no one else in the vehicle with him. But again, a large portion of this chase has been on the freeways, a number of freeways. We're now headed on the eastbound. Now we're off the roads as we look at our preview monitor here. I don't know if we can pull that up for you guys, but again, now off the 60 freeway, presumably in the IE there because he had just made his way through Roland Heights, Walnut, Diamond Bar, making his way on the 60 freeway through the city of Pomona. But again,
now we're getting back on the freeway, westbound on the 60 now. Westbound on the 60. This was basically, I think, right around Mountain Avenue or so.
Okay.
Yep, we're westbound.
So it looks again like he's coming back to those areas that he knew that he had been driving. Most of this pursuit is kind of centered around several miles, really, like 2 to 5 miles around the same areas. This is the longest stretch that he's taken sort of in a clear eastbound direction. Right. Now coming back westbound, presumably right back to where he was. And this started at Firestone and Atlantic, if I believe, in Southgate. And he was there for quite some time, kind of going in and around that area, including some side streets, an alley we saw him go through. Yeah. We saw him go through an industrial area behind some things and some close streets where he actually had to wait for a truck to pass him so that he could get around the truck. So he seems to know where he's going. Again, it's one driver, male driver in this vehicle, no other occupants, and now going back to the area where it all started.
Now, a few minutes ago, I did mention that if by chance this pursuit turned around and headed westbound, we were going to get stuck in a lot of traffic, and that's exactly what he has up ahead of him. More traffic, not gridlock, not weekday traffic, but certainly more than we saw on the eastbound side.
Yeah, more than we've seen throughout the entire chase here. We've seen open landscape of freeways here with very little interruption. But again, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, but folks are going to be heading back, eastbound or heading westbound from their vacation. So again, you are absolutely right, Will, in saying that we have seen a little more volume on the westbound side of the freeways here. But again, Lolita mentioned this is the furthest east out that he has been, so it makes you wonder, will he traverse or get back to the neighborhood that he was familiar with, the Southgate, Bell, Cudahy, Paramount area?
Right.
Yeah, that would be the next assumption, is that we have gone about as far as east as he wants to go, and now we're going to head back towards perhaps Southgate.
All right, and just to remind folks, it's 12:13 right now, and we are staying on this chase. For those of you who are tuning in for the French Open, we want to let you know that it was a total rainout. So we will join the coverage of weekend highlights at the end of this pursuit, but we're going to stay here. You are not missing any live action at the French Open as we're speaking. We're going to stay on this chase that we started covering for you at around 10:45, definitely in our new NBC4 News at 11 o'clock is sort of taking up our entire show here, trying to follow this guy to show you where he's going and seeing when this pursuit will end.
Yeah, and of course, it's a matter of safety as well, because again, we have this person who is, driving on and off the freeways, on surface streets, back on the freeways, a number of freeways, I might add, over the course of an hour plus. And again, he's back on the 60 westbound this time. You see the CHP units behind him. And, Will, I've asked you before, I mean, folks are probably sitting back saying, what now? What now? You have a clear open freeway. They've tried a spike strip on surface streets not too long ago. There was chatter about perhaps it happening again. It could actually be done on the freeway, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, the CHP, they're very skilled at doing just that. The trick is kind of hiding behind a vehicle so that the driver can't see the spike strip coming. That's kind of the key there that makes it a little difficult. But yes, it is absolutely doable on a freeway. We're eastbound 60, or westbound, I should say. Westbound 60, just passing the 71.
Interestingly enough, and we talked about the number of law enforcement vehicles following him. Are those numbers still high? We went from 6 to 7, at times 12. About how many are following this car at this point?
Well, what happens usually when the CHP takes over, there's a lead vehicle, and then maybe 2 more. But it looks like we have about 4 there right now. Definitely not the kind of situation we had on surface streets.
Well, we saw the Cruiser initially. Now I see what appears to be an SUV. So it's, apples for apples here if they wanted to try something like a pit maneuver.
It is possible, and they know how to do it. So we'll keep an eye on this situation. We're hearing some possible chatter about a spike strip up ahead. We'll have to see if that actually happens. But that may be a possibility in the near future. Eastbound side of the 60 here. Again, we're past the westbound, westbound past the 71.
And they attempted, some law enforcement agents, they attempted not too long ago, I think it was about 11:30 here this morning, a spike strip that was unsuccessful. But again, if there's talk of another spike strip, Will, you mentioned not too long ago that in fact it could be initiated here on the freeway.
The only problem is, again, if the driver sees that spike strip, it doesn't go across the whole freeway. It only goes across one lane.
Sure.
So if it's very easy to dodge, of course. So that's kind of the trick on the freeway. But again, pretty light traffic. I thought it was going to be a little heavier, and I think up ahead perhaps it does get a little heavier because we saw that going eastbound. But westbound on the 60 here, just past the 71, kind of going through that farmland area there, just a little bit past the 71.
And Michael, you know this area quite well. He had been going from the one area going out towards the IE out east. About how long do you think that in terms of distance he's been going? He seems to be doubling back the whole time he went going eastbound, now coming back the same way.
Well, I'm the driver who's usually caught in traffic trying to get through those cities. But again, open landscape for this driver here. I mean, they're pretty close to each other. But again, from making their way from Walnut up through, you have to go up the Kellogg Hill there and back down. I mean, it could be, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. I know I'm getting an email from someone who says no,
right,
it's 20 miles. But again,
good distance,
just
though.
my own
Right.
personal gauge. It is quite a distance, but he's now heading westbound on the 60 freeway, making his way, as you mentioned, doubling back now, making his way through what will be those cities. And again, we should be approaching the 57 here shortly. And as I mentioned before, on any given day, that is,
packed.
That is packed and is crunched, and again, a heavily traveled spot. But this being Memorial Day, with light traffic, obviously a much different story here.
We're Diamond Bar Boulevard. We just passed on the westbound side of the 60. So yeah, we've passed the first merge with the 57 right there, and it is pretty nice traffic conditions out here as you head westbound.
And you can see video, or was on our screen a little bit earlier. What we were showing you moments ago is when he was throwing things out of the vehicle. He had, at one point in this chase, opened his driver's side window and was throwing paper out, not once, but a few times within this. And then
4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times. And then we actually saw him as we got really close in, tearing up the paper in his lap while wearing his seatbelt, and then throwing it out of the window. And it was at that point that he actually got really close to a vehicle, and a wall,
right.
A wall there, and then kind of came back in. There's only about 2 or 3 times that we've seen him sort of lose focus, if you will,
Sure.
on just the driving and kind of come off. Presumably maybe doing something, as we saw with the paper. And there you see it again as he's sort of, you see him there, he's throwing some paperwork out of the vehicle. But since then,
No
at that
physical
moment,
activity.
we haven't seen any physical activity
Nothing.
in the car. It's been about, 30, 40 minutes since that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a distance and quite a lot amount of time that has gone by, and this guy's done nothing but drive. I mean, driving erratically at high speeds and on and off the freeways, and now doubling back here on the westbound 60. We just passed the first 57 transition off the 60, Will, and again, still open freeways for this guy. The CHP now in pursuit, and we've seen over the last few minutes, now we have some CHP SUVs mixed in as well.
Right, those newer SUVs that the CHP have in their fleet. And again, yep, westbound side of the 60. We have just passed the second split there with the 57. So this guy is apparently staying with the Pomona Freeway here, headed westbound. And again, if you just the reverse trip of the one we just made will be headed through the Montebello area, places like that, headed towards the 5.
And we just want to remind all of our NBC4 viewers, we are staying on this chase only because for those of you tuning in for the French Open, we want to let you know that French Open was a total rainout. So you are not missing live action. We will continue to show you coverage of some of the weekend highlights, but at this point, there is no live action. It's a total rainout at the French Open. We're not taking that away from you. We just want to stay on this as long as we can without taking away anything from the French Open, because again, it was a total rainout. We will get to some weekend highlights, but for now, we will be staying live on this pursuit.
Yeah, a lot of folks calling into our newsroom, and again, we just need to reiterate that as we stay live with our picture here on the of this pursuit that has been going on for well over an hour. In fact, it started, what, about 10:45 this morning?
10:45, yeah. We're going in about 20 minutes. It would be a full 2 hours that we've been following this one.
And Will Colshaw live overhead, and again, we see those CHP SUVs now tailing the lead CHP cruiser, if you will, in this chase. Chatter or talk about a spike strip, and again, that needs to be done at the right time and the right positioning, and that has yet to happen, Will.
Yeah, we have not seen any so far. It's getting a little busier here, though, as we continue westbound. We're past Fairway Drive on the westbound side of the 60, and it is our speeds are about 65 miles an hour right now as we keep up with him here in News Chopper 4, but certainly not as erratic, the type of driving that we saw earlier.
And Will, we know that this vehicle, according to Southgate Police, you can see on the right side earlier today, they did attempt a spike strip right there when this vehicle had gone onto surface streets. This began with Southgate Police. The spike strip obviously unsuccessful at that point, and then he continued driving, getting back onto the freeway, going in and out. But you see him going into intersections.
Right.
We want to remind you that the reason we are staying with this pursuit and why it's so important is because it is a public safety issue.
Sure.
You're going into areas like this. We have seen him, we know confirmed from Southgate Police, he has hit one vehicle, so he's now a charge of assault on top of whatever he's facing for this. But also we've seen him sideswipe another vehicle, hit a wall, come very, very close to a bicyclist.
Bicyclist, right.
And then it hit near hit misses of other vehicles. So this is a public safety issue, the reason we're carrying this. And as Michael's been saying, Memorial Day, holiday, cars are going to be on the road coming to and from different activities. Very important for us to see sort of the landscape of where he is and different freeways that will or possibly could be affected along the way.
There have been a number of freeways that have been impacted by this. A lot of surface streets. We've seen them travel through industrial neighborhoods, very tight and dense neighborhoods where there have been people out on bikes. And again, this is Memorial Day. I don't need to remind you of that. But again, folks are out of school. Folks don't have to work. I mean, it took me 15 minutes to get to work this morning, when it normally takes me 45 minutes. So again, that just tells you that there are cars may not be on the road, but certainly people are out enjoying their time off and their day off. But again, this person here decided to get behind the wheel of a stolen car and lead police, a number of police agencies here on a pursuit that is heading now into its near second hour.
And Will, you were talking earlier about when he came off the eastbound and now back westbound, that you had seen some traffic ahead. Same type of thing. Is it a little bit busier going westbound?
It is a little bit busier. We just passed Fullerton Road on the westbound side of the 60, and it is slightly busier. Now, in time, it's going to be much busier because of all the returning holiday traffic, as you mentioned, from the desert and places east. But we're just approaching Azusa now on the westbound side of the 60, and traffic does not look too bad up ahead.
He's definitely going through a larger portion of this. Again, this started in Southgate. He stayed within sort of the same area where this all started. As we get a closer look here from News Shopper 4, thanks, Will, for that close-up shot. This started in Southgate, he stayed in and around the area, Paramount, Cudahy, Bell. Then it started really getting on the freeway going eastbound, and then a larger area that he's now covering during this pursuit.
Yeah, and as we look, we have a close-up shot of this guy. I mean, you would think he was just cruising back from, his day at the office. But I mean, he's there riding the number one lane there, window up, seatbelt on, white T-shirt. Speeds I'm sure are past the speed limit there, but obviously with the perhaps with the flow of traffic, I don't know. But CHP is in pursuit of this person. Again, we've only seen a little bit of physical activity from this person, over the course of this chase. I mean, some paper, and we've rolled that clip a number of times, being thrown out, or at least what appears to be paper of some sort. Don't know what it is, but consistently threw something out 4 to 5 times over the course of 2 to 3 minutes. But again, the only physical activity we've seen this driver make. And
Will, do you see anything at this point maybe possibly sticking out of a window, or is there anything unusual now that you're seeing from this vehicle?
No, I heard mention of that. I'm trying to see. I can take a look. Maybe it's on the other side. Had you heard something? Because it does look strange. The edge of the window looks a little strange there. That was the window. That was the window that was open, and the driver was throwing out a bunch of ripped up paper and I'm not sure what else. But it does look kind of like it has an edge to it. It could just be the edge of the glass. I'm not,
right, and that's
hard to tell.
I wanted to get your perspective on that because that's you know, as we watch this and as it goes into you know, the time that we've been on it, it's trying to sort of figure out what may be going on with that person, if there's any movement inside, and looking at the vehicle itself. Obviously, the distance and the speeds that he's taking. As we know that this is one male driver inside, no other occupants, according to Southgate Police. The first agency that was sort of on this vehicle.
It looks like it's cracked.
It looks like it's cracked.
Yeah, it's cracked open a little
is
bit.
What Michael's
we have it on a big monitor here. So
we're looking at a big monitor in our newsroom. As you guys, you know, audiences at home are probably taking a look at this one as well, trying to see what's occurring here. And again, you know, a public safety issue as we go on so many of these surface streets and on busier freeways as more people head either back or to and fro from different places on this Memorial Day holiday. So trying to keep this on there for you to give you as much information as we can. We haven't heard of any either delays, cancellations, crossing, or any of that nature from either Caltrans or anything that would impact traffic at this point. But, you know, we continue to follow this here. And Will, black and whites, where are those law enforcement vehicles at this point?
We are westbound on the 60 here. We're approaching Turnbull Canyon, which next would be 7th Avenue after that. So kind of in the Hacienda Heights area, just exactly the way we came, and except this time we're headed westbound, and traffic up ahead very, very light.
And again, heading back to an area that's where this all started. You're looking at a video that we shot earlier here today. Again, as he made his way while on surface streets through a gas station, nearly missing 2 cars right there. And again, another one right there, a 4th one. Driving has been absolutely erratic. Doesn't matter whether it's on surface streets, whether it's on the freeways. But again, using his vehicle there to bump that white car there on the right out of the way. Imagine me the driver of that car. Now, you know, see, at that point, I believe it was Southgate Police who was in pursuit. That was in pursuit. But again, as we continue to roll this footage from earlier today, things being thrown out the window there, him traversing, squeezing his way through cars that are waiting for red lights. Again,
there's that bicyclist right
there once again.
Yeah, as he was going on the wrong side, right? Well, often we saw him going on the wrong side of either the street or some avenue.
We've seen that several times during this pursuit. Stop signs or stop traffic, they do not seem to hold this guy back. So that's something to be to certainly be aware of as this heads towards your neighborhood. If he does get off the freeway and you have perhaps kids or friends out playing, we want to let you know about that so you can get your friends off the street, because there have been so many close calls in this pursuit and cases where the driver just nearly missed other people because he just wanted to get around the traffic that was stopped.
All right, so once again, as we approach 12:30 here, again, a pursuit that we've been covering since about 10:45 here this morning, right here on NBC4. Again, we're looking at I've identified the car. It's a Kia. We put it on a big monitor. I can actually read. It is a Kia SUV that we have been following here. One person inside the car, the guy in the white T-shirt, you see him right there. And again, for those of you who are wondering why we're on this chase, and it's now 12:29, we are staying on this chase. For those of you tuning in for the French Open, again, we want to let you know, we need to reiterate that it was a total and complete rainout. So we will join coverage of the weekend highlights as soon as this pursuit is over. But again, it's a pursuit that continues here on the 60 westbound. Been happening since about 10:45 here this morning.
We're now approaching the 605, I should mention, westbound on the 60 here, about 80 miles an hour, and very light conditions ahead.
And so he has sort of free reign on this one. It doesn't seem that he's pulling off of the freeway. But as you were saying earlier, Will, we really can't predict in terms of what he's going to do. Sometimes he'll go from the left lane all the way out and get off on an exit, correct?
We've seen that. We have absolutely seen that. He tried very hard several times to elude the police or whoever was chasing him at that time. It was Southgate PD at that point. And, you know, that's good for the cars, but there's always been the helicopter overhead. So unfortunately, the bottom line in all of these pursuits is they almost never get away. And occasionally we see that they do, but it looks like this guy's speeding up a little bit. We're looking at about maybe 90 miles an hour on the westbound 60.
Yeah, and continuous driving here for well over, almost we're approaching now the second hour. And again, I identify that SUV as a Kia, and I believe it's a Kia Sorento. And just looking at, again, the miles per gallon, this particular model gets anywhere from 21 to 29 miles per gallon, whether it's surface streets or on the freeway here. So it makes you wonder, there must have been a full tank of gas inside this car, because this guy has been blazing through since 10:45 this morning. So again, CHP now continuing their pursuit of this driver. Again, CHP could, ramp things up, if you will. They have the ability to spike strip. They also have the ability to pit maneuver. Obviously not the perfect and right conditions for a pit maneuver, but again, one of the few agencies that is actually trained in all of this, right, Will?
Right, they are, and we've seen it so many times. They can spin that vehicle around. It's a little trickier. They won't do it at this kind of speed,
sure.
But it's a little trickier with an SUV. So much weight and bulk to that vehicle. At this point, being the CHP, they're probably looking at the situation here, and it's pretty calm right now. The time is kind of on their side. They can watch him wherever he goes. They've got the helicopter overhead. The problem is when he gets off the freeway into these little communities, that's when
it's a really wide berth now. The suspect is actually putting quite a bit of distance on that CHP primary units right now. So that's very interesting. But, yeah, what he's doing there, and, again, if that is indeed the case, and, again, we're unfortunately speculating from what we're seeing, and that could be just cigarettes or could be some kind of illicit drug that he is smoking, but that will dictate the way he drives, or that will dictate if he goes into side streets again and he starts going up on sidewalks.
Right. And we saw JT, we saw that earlier. We saw that happen.
If he's under the influence. That's something they're really going to consider, because if this continues, they do not want the suspect, who may be under the influence of an illegal narcotic or alcohol, if that's the case, being even more dangerous and more impaired during a pursuit like this. We haven't seen evidence of that so far. His driving has been, it looks like he's picking up some speed, but again, for earlier, so the video that we just showed you a few seconds ago, for no reason, it seemed like that white SUV that got out in front of him maybe tried to change lanes, and he tried to get around him and decided to give him a little side swipe there, and it looked almost intentional. But again, that could be very erratic behavior based on exactly what he may be ingesting. But we don't know that at this particular point.
Getting a little feedback on your phone there, JT. So we're gonna take it real quick. He is. I actually think this is not what law enforcement wants to see, him heading westbound any further. Once you hit the 60, you're getting into a lot more populated traffic in this situation. And we've talked about today is Memorial Day. You don't have a normal rush hour traffic that you're going to expect to start to pick up here after 12:30, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. But we're talking about Memorial Day, and this is the expected to be the busiest Memorial Day travel-wise we've seen in the last decade. We have the lowest gas prices we've seen since 2005, which sent a lot of people back onto the roads, where we haven't seen in holidays past. And when you think about that combined with this situation, as the afternoon continues on here, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, it really is. And that's always the thing that you worry about in these kind of pursuits, is the other people, the innocent people that can be impacted by all this. So he is now heading into the East Los Angeles area on the 60 freeway westbound. Of course, as he goes west, just as Jory was saying, he's going to get closer and closer to more populated areas, more populated stretches of freeway. He did at one point come down the 710, so it's quite possible that he's heading that direction.
Yeah. Can we put the live picture back up? I think he just got off the freeway. Okay, we're resetting our chopper shot here, and we're showing what happened earlier in this pursuit. Really close situation there. Again, credit the driver of that white vehicle, because that really should have been a collision. And we get word now that he has just gotten on the southbound 710. Here, watch how close this could have been. That white driver in the white vehicle swerving right at the last moment. Should have been contact there. I fully expected to see that happen. But right now, we saw earlier, took the 710 north.
I believe.
And right now on the 710 south, again, doubling back on where he came, and that's something we talked about with JT. These pursuits seem to center around locations where drivers know the area, right? It's close to home, it's somewhere they're familiar with, and this seems to be that situation, if indeed he's heading back towards where this began.
Well, if he's going south on the 710, now he's going towards the 5 freeway. Again, a more populated area, a smaller freeway, so I've got to assume that that's not going to be good for anybody at that point.
But again, roads look pretty clear.
They do at this point. As you mentioned, though, we're now at 12:37, so it is only going to get busier and busier by the hour here, and this is already stretched on, coming up on 2 hours for this pursuit. So at some point, you're going to hope maybe he runs out of gas and this ends peacefully at that point. But right now, we've just been kind of waiting, hanging out for about 2 hours, waiting to see what this driver is going to do. CHP in the exact same boat, just kind of waiting and waiting to react to him. I believe, JT, we have you back on the phone.
Yeah, Christina, hopefully this connection's a little bit better. I'm actually in the car right now, driving to the airport to jump into our second Air 7 HD ship to relieve our primary ship, who's going to be out of fuel shortly to get over this pursuit if it continues. So we're driving to the airport right now, so I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but we're going to try to give you as much information as we can as we're on the way.
All right, sounds good, JT. We'll talk to you up in the air here in a little bit. Again, this pursuit began around 11 a.m. this morning in the Southgate Downey area. Southgate police at one point were in pursuit. CHP was in pursuit as well. I think the last we saw, Southgate turned it over to CHP, and that is how this has kind of remained for the last, I'd say, 45 minutes to
as long as he's been on the freeway, staying in those middle lanes, driving relatively about the same speed, at times, though, reaching 90 miles per hour. Of course, that is concerning when he's going so fast. We've seen CHP officers pull off, hoping that maybe that will help him reduce his speed, just not wanting to aggravate him at all or provoke him to do anything crazy that might jeopardize other motorists' safety. That, of course, is their primary concern, is just managing this situation while keeping everybody else on the road safe. We've seen a lot of people that have gotten on the road seem to understand that a pursuit's going on pretty quickly, because we've seen them just stick to the right side of the road, some even slowing down, pulling over to let that car go by and the following CHP officers. So pretty aware of them. Pretty aware of the situation in their mirrors. This is as he's approaching Bell Gardens. Yeah,
in Bell Gardens on the 710 South near Cudahy, approaching Southgate. Again, heading towards the 105. This is territory that he's already been in this morning. This is where the pursuit began, back in this area for a time, stretched out east almost to, well, how far east did he get? Almost to, did he make it to Chino? Yeah, made it all the way out to Chino. So this guy has, and on the right side of your screen, we're showing you some of the close calls that happened once this driver got off of the freeway. First on Valley Boulevard. I think this video is going to loop back around again. You can see as he approaches the end of the off-ramp, found traffic ahead of him right here. This is the same video looped over again. Gets off the road, starts driving on the dry wash, the dirt on the side of the road. And just as he approaches the intersection, watch to the right of the screen, a bicycle is going to come riding right in. A second later, either way, that could have been a really bad situation. And on the left of the screen, you can see another bicyclist was just standing up against a wall. So he passed a bicycle on either side of him, both of which could have been bad. And then another situation here, as I think this was later on Valley Boulevard, there's going to be a white vehicle that seems to get in his way.
Here we go.
So begins to go around it and then just turns right into the vehicle, who definitely was able to swerve out of the way and not, it didn't appear that there was contact at that point with that car. So some good driving on that innocent bystander driving down the road on Valley Boulevard. So now this driver is back in Southgate. We believe that is where this pursuit began some hour and 45 minutes ago, and it hasn't stopped since.
No, it really hasn't. And again, it started as a stolen vehicle. We know it's a Kia, it looks like a minivan or a small SUV of some sort. Not sure the circumstances around the stolen vehicle pursuit, how that came in, if somebody actually reported it being stolen, or if police were just out on a routine patrol and ran the plates and noticed. That is all, the unknowns right now. But we do have JT. We do have JT back with us as the driver approaches just south of Firestone, I'm told, JT.
Yeah, its pursuit continues, and again, the suspect driving not erratically, just staying on the freeways. But as we mentioned before, going back to areas that he is familiar with, that Southgate area, again, where this pursuit started, we tend to see that quite often. They tend to drive off in long runs off to the east or west, but they always seem to come back to the areas that the pursuit originally originated from, I should say. So it's very interesting that he's back in this area. And a lot of times they'll come back to the area because they've got friends there, they know people there. Sometimes they'll even go into neighborhoods that they're familiar with, and if they're going to bail and run, they'll run in those neighborhoods hoping that one of their friends will actually take them in. We've seen that quite a bit. Uncertain if that'll be the case here or not. But it always tends to wind up in areas that they come back to that they're familiar with, and that seems to be the case here. We'll see if it continues on the 7th.
Okay, JT.
We'll be launching our second helicopter, Air 7 HD, to relieve our primary helicopter here very shortly, and driving to the airport right now to get into that helicopter and continue to bring you live coverage of this pursuit as it winds its way through the streets of Southern California and freeways of Southern California.
Yeah, speaking of freeways, approaching the 105 right now. I missed it. Has he hit the 105 yet? Yeah, it should be coming up on the 105 earlier. We do know that at some point today, this driver was on the 710 and on the right lane, past the 105, or is heading right now? Because this driver, okay, approaching the 105, looks like he is going to get on the 105. Yeah, hit the exit lanes, and now we just see whether he goes east or west. If I had to guess, based on his previous paths, I would say he's going to go eastbound on the 105. But right now in the right lane, so that would, unless this is a bit of a clover leaf, we'll see if he goes east or west.
Right there, yeah. Still in the Linwood area. He has seemed to pretty much retrace his steps all morning, going eastbound one way and then westbound the other way.
Looks like it's going to be westbound.
It is clear that he has an area that he's familiar with and sticking to it.
Okay, so west on the 105 right now, heading still in Linwood, heading towards Willowbrook, Gardena, and the 110. This pursuit has generally remained on freeways. The one time we saw it, we know earlier, before we came on air with this, he was on some side streets. Since we've come on air with this pursuit, which is now more than an hour that we have seen it, it's about an hour and 45 minutes in all. Went off the freeway one time on Valley Boulevard and made a right onto 7th. Twice came really close to swiping a bicyclist and then another vehicle on the road. So based on what we've seen so far in this almost 2 hours of a pursuit, much safer as a driver on the freeways than on side streets. And I think that's because he felt maybe he was getting bottled in. And if we had only seen what had happened on the freeway, we thought this really might have been a calm pursuit that you obviously need to worry about, but nothing where he's going to really pull something to try and get away. Once he got off the freeway and showed what his true intentions, his desperation was, the fact he was willing to put pedestrian and bystander lives at risk, then this pursuit took on a new feeling to it.
A new dimension, for sure. Fortunately, he didn't stay too long on the side streets, got back on the freeway. I think he's been off on the side streets twice, one before we brought this onto air, and then once again, obviously, while we were on air. We've showed you that footage several different times of him going through intersections, almost sideswiping vehicles, really showing that he will stop at nothing to get away from police. And we were talking about this earlier. Just they've pulled back a little bit on the ground, but rarely, if ever, do you see the suspects actually get away in a pursuit situation.
It just doesn't happen. Yeah. It makes you wonder what is going through the mind of someone who does this. Yeah. Obviously, if we talked about the possibility of him maybe dumping illicit narcotics or trying to buy time so that when this does come to an end, the punishment might be a little less. But again, the idea that you're going to get away from law enforcement is really a fool's belief. All right, I think JT, who is on his way to the airport to get into another Air 7 ship. JT,
so many of these, JT.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. Several suspects have been questioned after pursuits, and they say, "Well, why do you keep running?" And they never really have a definitive answer. They only said, the longer they're out of cuffs, the better. And we talked about earlier what you just mentioned, Jory, and getting rid of that evidence. Well, what you're doing is you're just prolonging that pursuit, and you're already in a felony evading pursuit, which means that's a felony to evade police officers. And if you, again, by any chance happen to injure or kill someone during that pursuit, the stakes of that of your conviction are going to go way, way obviously up here. So you're actually prolonging the pursuit, and you're prolonging their chances of handling or being charged with much stiffer penalties than actually the original crime they may have been wanted for. So a lot of the times we'll see this, and they just really don't know why they ran. And what they get, the answer you get is, I just the longer out of handcuffs, the better. And they'll just keep going until they feel they want to give it up, or until they come down off of whatever they may be ingesting. Again, we don't know if that's the case here or not, but that seems to be the case. They just keep going until they don't. Sometimes they make a run for it. Sometimes they just give up. And in this situation, will be interesting to see how this ends. But what's most important for us is that we keep you, the viewer, updated on where this is. Again, a lot of families out right now enjoying this Memorial Day weekend, and we want to make sure that you're aware of where this pursuit's at, what the suspect is doing, especially on those side streets. And if it's coming through your neighborhood or coming through the freeway you're on, especially through your neighborhoods, and if this terminates in the neighborhood where you live, you want to stay indoors, get the kids out from the front yard, get them inside, close the doors, lock the windows, because the law enforcement agencies are going to be setting up a containment, setting up a perimeter, and the last thing you want is that suspect getting into your house, getting into your windows, getting in your doors, or even coming near any of your family members.
No, absolutely correct, and very important, JT, and good points to bring up to all the viewers. Wonder if you could speak a little bit more. We touched on this earlier about the tactics police have at their disposal. At what point in this would they be forced to act? Would they be forced to make a move to try and end this sooner than later?
Well, what they don't want to do is they don't want to be forced into something that may lead to something worse. And again, the law enforcement agencies have information that we currently do not have. They know a little bit more about the suspect, possibly what he's wanted for, possibly what weapons are involved. And it just appears to me they're giving him a very wide berth. Again, it's uncertain if they've had the opportunity to use some of those pursuit intervention techniques, such as the pit maneuver or the spike strip, because we haven't seen that as of yet. But that may be because of reasons that we're just not aware of right now. So it can get dangerous, and if it continues to get dangerous and the suspect actually ups the ante by doing things that are really causing the public at large to be in more danger than they already are, they may decide to employ these tactics or techniques. It just depends, and that's what there's a supervisor in every pursuit. That's his responsibility. He is determining factors, whether it be speed, weather, if it's raining out, what the conditions are, what the suspect's wanted for, how recklessly he's driving. And he has to take all those into consideration before he asks his officers to deploy any of these tactics or techniques to take the suspect in custody. Because the last thing you want to do is put any of the private citizens or public at large in any more danger that they're already at. And that's a very hard place to be in to make those decisions.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. All right, we just saw that major interchange there with the flyovers. That was obviously the 105 and the 110. Still heading westbound on the 105 into West Athens, heading towards the Hawthorne area, really heading towards the airport area. And now we're seeing some movement crossing over the double yellow lines into the HOV lane.
This is the farthest west, I believe, that we've tracked him to go. We know that he's gone as far east as Chino, been into the Pico Rivera, Downey, Southgate area as well, gone down on the 710. And now he is on the 105 freeway. He has passed the 110 interchange, is continuing to head towards the ocean, still going at a good clip of speed, nothing too excessive, but it does look like he has sped up, picked up a little bit of speed there as CHP continue to follow him.
Yeah, as we continue. Go ahead, JT.
Another factor that may be going on here, and what we don't want to see is Los Angeles International Airport, especially today, is going to be extremely busy, and that's an area we don't want to see him go into. But even going towards that west side, you're going to get a lot of traffic on that 405 right now. And again, I'm not in front of the map, but I can imagine that anything near the airport right now may be a little busier than normal. People coming back from their holiday weekend and traveling on the last day of that weekend. So we're worried, a little concerning about that. But again, we're not really sure where the suspect's going to go or what he's going to do. But they're very content with giving him a very wide berth to CHP, as we talked about earlier, as he continues westbound on that 105 towards the west side of Los Angeles.
All right, JT, as we continue here on the westbound 105, we are approaching the 1 o'clock hour. This pursuit began, if you're just joining us, about 11 a.m. in the Downey Southgate area. We are coming up on 2 hours of this pursuit. It has stretched as far east as Chino. And now we are headed, this is as far west as we have seen, approaching Hawthorne on the 105. And as JT said, getting towards Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, is going to be extremely busy. The one thing we can say about this, most pursuits you see on Southern California roads are a lot more clogged than what we've seen today. Because of the Memorial Day holiday, we're not going to see a normal afternoon rush hour. So roads have been pretty clear the entire time we have seen this in nearly the full 2 hours of this pursuit. The problem that you're going to run into is that when people returning from Memorial Day vacations, AAA says this is going to be the busiest Memorial Day holiday that we've seen in the last 10 years. Gas prices are low, so a lot of people hit the roads. We haven't begun to see that in earnest just yet, but we are far from the peak travel times that we see on the Monday after the end of the Memorial Day holiday. So if this goes on much longer, it's only going to get worse in terms of traffic, as now this driver is approaching the 405 freeway.
Hi, Jory. This is Ellen Leva, replacing Christina Salvo. She's been here since this morning. I just got back from Santa Monica. I was visiting a very sick friend at St. John's Hospital. No traffic at all, as you can see there on the screen. But that's either good news or bad news, because he can get a lot further, make a lot more distance.
Sure.
But also, he's been traveling for, what, 2 hours now?
2 hours now, basically staying in the same general vicinity. We've seen him travel on the same freeway multiple times in both directions. Took the 60 east out to Chino, got off and got right back on the 60 westbound and made his way down. He was on the 710 earlier. It looks like the interchange now with the 405 and crossing right.
I believe, producer, did you say he just went onto the 405?
Yeah, 405 southbound, is that correct?
405 southbound near Hawthorne. And again, the 405 was empty as well.
And so again, maybe we could surmise circling back around if he takes the 405 down, heading sort of east again towards where this began in the Southgate, in the Downey area. This is kind of switched jurisdictions a couple times. Southgate police were on this. They transferred over to CHP. That is, I believe, who is still on this. They've been pursuing for more than an hour now after being handed it back from Southgate police.
And for a while there, if it began in Downey, you thought he was maybe making his way back toward the same area, but apparently now he's decided to go 405 south, and who knows which direction he's headed now or where he's intending to go.
Right.
But was there some speculation that he might have been using some drugs or...
Yeah, we thought we saw a pipe.
Yeah.
We thought several times it appeared to be smoking out of a pipe. Again, we don't know what would be in it, if that was indeed what he was doing inside the vehicle. We've had a couple angles where we've been able to see right inside the vehicle and see the driver close enough. You can see he's wearing a wedding ring.
Oh, wow.
So you can see right into this car. And generally what we've seen is relatively slow, safe pursuit on freeways.
Right, and,
and
on surface streets, right? He got a little
surface streets
erratic?
got really erratic. Getting off the freeway, getting off the 710 onto Valley Boulevard, nearly hit a bicyclist. At once on Valley Boulevard, nearly sideswiped another vehicle. And now we're starting to see traffic pick up a little bit more than what we've seen. This is about as many cars as we've seen on the road around him all day long.
As the afternoon approaches, maybe people are finished with their barbecues or headed back home. We're going to go to JT Alpa, who's been covering this from Air 7 HD. And JT, are you in the air again?
Well, Ellen, actually, I am getting into our second helicopter here shortly. Our primary helicopter is over it. I'm going to be jumping into our second helicopter to relieve it because they need to get some fuel. So we're waiting for that to happen. But right now I'm on the phone with you, watching this pursuit and reporting with you for the past hour or so. As they continue southbound on that 405 coming up on the South Bay curve, you can see speeds are increasing a little bit. He's driving a little faster than he had been before. And you can see that CHP unit is still getting in a little closer than they were before out east. They're actually starting to close that distance, and maybe that's the reason the suspect is actually picking his speeds up. But right now they figure they're going to push him a little bit, try to get on him, let him know they're there, and that they're going to take him into custody eventually, and hopefully that'll force something to happen, maybe him giving up. But this pursuit has continued. We talked a little bit about what we thought might be going on inside of that car with that suspect ingesting. But again, we don't know what that was. But that is indicative of pursuits like this. From experience, we know that type of thing does happen as this pursuit continues approaching the South Bay curve.
Yeah, it looks like headed towards Lawndale on the 405 South at this point. Do we have a more accurate note of where he is, guys?
Apparently he's going 85 miles an hour. Now, we know he's desperate because he was willing to put other people in danger when he was on those side streets and narrowly hitting those people, swiping, and almost on purpose. It looked like intentionally.
It did. We couldn't figure out why it really happened because it looked like he drove intentionally right at another car who would have struck it were it not for really kind of quick thinking by that other driver to get out of the way. But we thought at one point maybe they rolled out a spike strip because he was driving so erratically and seemed to be fishtailing almost. After he got out of the way of that vehicle, looked like he was going to drive right off the road.
Oh, exactly.
So we didn't know what to think at that point, whether, here it is right here. This is on Valley Boulevard heading eastbound. As he approaches this car, everything looks fine. And then
just a bit aggressive and
just goes right after him.
Yeah, that was certainly intentional.
Yeah, loses control a little bit, and I thought he was going to go up into the dirt here.
That would have been nice.
The brake. Yeah, I know. Just ended it right with nobody else really around.
Yeah.
Instead, here we are almost an hour later, approaching Torrance on the 405 South, as we are now 1 minute to 1 o'clock here, pushing 2 hours of this pursuit that began in the Downey Southgate area. Here's a close call. We'll show you right here from the right side of your screen. You see a man on a bicycle come up who then has to back up as law enforcement pursues. If we roll this again, we've been looping this video. So we see the bicyclist come in from the right side, but on the left side, up against a wall, is another man.
Really?
With a bicycle.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Here, once he gets off the road on the left side, there is another man with a bicycle. So he basically comes within feet of two different men trying to escape police. So there's the bike right there. I mean, that's a foot or two.
Oh, I see what you're saying there. Okay. Yeah, so obviously a man who's desperate to get away, and fortunately he's on the freeways now. That's a little bit safer, I guess, as pursuits go, especially on a day like this with less traffic. At least there are no pedestrians in danger right now. But you're hoping, we kept hearing reports or rumors that he's running out of gas, that he supposedly told a relative on the cell phone that he's running out of gas and he's not going to give up without a fight. I heard that on the radio. I don't know if that's true.
Sure.
But he's driving an SUV for 2 hours now at high speeds.
Right. If he is, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
If he expected to run out of gas, it hasn't happened yet. All right, JT Alpaugh is headed to LAX to go up in another one of our ships, our Air 7 ships, to join in this pursuit to kind of relieve our Air 7 HD right now, who's got to be running low on gas because he's been up there for more than an hour now. JT, what can you tell us?
Well, yeah, again, right now we're just waiting to get topped off with fuel and the pilot to go in here. And as soon as the rotors start turning, I'm going to hang up this phone and get in that aircraft and relieve our sister ship here. But, yeah, it seems like the speeds are picking up quite a bit as he continues southbound on the 405 here. And, Alan, you nailed it. I mean, it's better that he's on the freeway at this point than running through residential neighborhoods or side streets and endangering families that are out enjoying this weekend, this extra long weekend, I should say. But you can see we've seen more traffic here on this 405 coming away from LAX that we've seen pretty much all day long on that 60 and on the 710. So we're seeing quite a bit of traffic, and he's maneuvering that. But what you said there earlier of is very concerning what the suspect told police, if that indeed is the fact of and confirmed that when he's running out of fuel and that he's not going to give up without a fight. That is something that is extremely concerning to law enforcement, especially if the suspect is armed. And that's indicating that as soon as he runs out of fuel, there's going to be a fight, and that's something that officers are very, very concerned with and take very, very seriously. So it would behoove the suspect, obviously, not to do that and just give up peacefully, because that's how everybody wants this thing to end. But, yeah, very concerning Memorial Day here for for officers involved in this pursuit here. Suspect originally wanted, I don't think that's changed, for a stolen vehicle. It's interesting to me is how they know who the suspect is, and somehow this vehicle was stolen, but maybe by someone the suspect knows. That would be really the only way they could be able to get a hold of him or know who it is. But we've seen that suspect's activity within that car. A lot of movement, a lot of jostling around inside. His hands sometimes not even on the steering wheel, messing around with what Jory described as pipes and cellophane and papers and what appear to be smoking. Again, all indications that is something that might not be a legal substance, and while this pursuit is continuing, you can see California Highway Patrol is actually closing in the distance. And a unique thing we mention quite often that CHP does that not a lot of law enforcement agencies do is they constantly switch units. You can see on the right, you see units cycling in and cycling out. So they're constantly keeping fresh officers, fresh vehicles, fresh fuel on these pursuits as they rotate in and out of the pursuits to keep those officers very sharp and very focused, and they don't get too tunneled for too long in any one particular suspect. That's one thing the CHP does that a lot of these other agencies do not do, and we've been seeing that all afternoon.
Yeah, well, kind of a sign at how calm this pursuit has been while it's been on the freeways is that when you see him have to swerve into another lane around another car, it's almost jarring because he's almost lulled us into...
Like right there.
Right there. That was on Valley Boulevard. But just a moment ago, he approached a car who obviously doesn't know that a pursuit is coming on his rear and doesn't get out of the way. So we see the driver kind of swerve into other lanes. That's really not been the story of this pursuit for the most part all morning and afternoon long. He stayed really in the left lane unless he's about to change freeways, which he has done several times. And this just gives you a view right into, is that a can?
Right, it's hard to
looks
say,
like
but
a
right
can
now
of something in his hand, right?
He's passing Avalon right now, but it does look like a can.
It looks like a pizza on the passenger
Yeah, I thought
seat,
that as
too.
well. It does look like a
boy.
pizza box on the passenger seat.
And if
but-
indeed he is doing drugs, you know, it's all the more fortuitous that he's on the freeways at a day like this when there's not a lot of cars on the road, and hopefully
Sure.
it's just a waiting game.
You would hope so, and just you hope that this thing comes to a peaceful end. On the 405 southbound, has he I believe he's crossed the 110 already. Is that correct? Yeah, he's in Carson on the 405. Not sure whether he's crossed over the 110 already or not. And then at that point, if so, he'd be heading again towards the 710, which, if previous activity behavior would indicate anything, he might be headed back towards where this started again, which was in the Southgate Downey area some 2 hours and 5 minutes ago. This began around 11 a.m. this morning.
And so often we see them go back to the place where it started, you know, what's
Sure, they
familiar.
know the roads, it's
Exactly.
familiar.
Or perhaps they've contacted someone they want to talk to or to surrender. Who knows what he's thinking. But for 2 hours, this thing has been going on, and you know he's just, he wants to get away, or perhaps he wants, if he's under the influence, wants it to get out of his system, like you and Christina were talking about, perhaps. That's a possibility, only speculation now. But if you did see a pipe, that's disturbing that he's driving under the influence as well.
Yeah, and we've been speaking with JT Alpaugh. We're going to hold off for a second here, just because we're approaching a situation where there are cars in the HOV lane, and again, the situation with the Memorial Day holiday, we really haven't seen a lot of this. We haven't seen a lot of erratic driving. We haven't seen him have to get out of the way of other drivers. But as the afternoon kind of continues, you've got people going out to their Memorial Day events, going to picnics and going to parties, or even the beach.
Exactly.
And two, you have people coming home from vacation. They've left town. We know so many people,
Right.
more than we've seen in a decade, left town via car this Memorial Day. And so at some point, they're going to start making their way back into the area. And so traffic here beginning to pick up. I'm not sure whether it's indicative of the area he's in, or the fact that the later we get here in the afternoon, the more cars we're going to see on the road.
And I did hear you mention, you know, the gas prices are lower, people are getting out more. And you're right, it's 1:05 in the afternoon right now. Some people try to, we're going to beat traffic, we'll get on the freeways, let's get home before the rest of the people go home.
And this is great for any other day.
Yes.
It's just based on what we saw earlier in the day when there was nobody. I mean, we're talking barren freeways for this guy to just kind of barrel along unheated.
Exactly.
Now we're starting to see him change lanes a little more, have to get around vehicles, and it looks like, is he slowing down?
Oh, crossing the 710, and now he's in Long Beach. So he's made his way quite quickly down that freeway. It's unheard of, you know, it's because of the holidays, but he's been traveling at about 85 miles per hour. It looks like the officers are getting a little bit closer to him.
I think he might be
and
slowing
it looks like
down
he's
here.
slowing
Is he
down.
just
Maybe he's
coasting?
actually, wow.
This could be an indication that he's actually running out of fuel. This is usually the first.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he is coming. It looks like he's rolling to a
yeah.
stop here.
This
We're
will be
getting down to
interesting.
maybe 20 miles an hour at this point.
Hopefully go to the curb side and to the shoulder of the road. That would be a lot safer for everybody.
Yeah, and anytime, all right, so here we go. We're almost to a stop now. This is on the 405,
Wow.
just east of the 710. And
Yeah, it looks,
So you can see the California Highway Patrol air support helicopter is overhead, and it would appear that this suspect is usually, this is indicative of them running out of fuel, and ideally what's going to happen here is they're going to do what's called a high-risk felony stop. They're going to use their PAs and their voices to call the suspect out, and we'll see if he complies. And the pursuit is over. It seems like, or it's stopped right now, and now it's up to the suspect. He dictates what happens here. Hopefully this won't turn into a standoff. He'll just come out and prone himself out and be taken into custody, but that remains to be seen as this comes to an end. It's very important now. Officers are watching his hands, as we are here in Air 7 HD, making sure that he is not reaching underneath for any weapons or anything like that, passing that information along.
Yeah, and JT, we can see officers are out of the vehicle right now. Guns are drawn, and they're trying to basically kind of see what's going to happen here. A rifle you can see on Unit 794 there. The passenger side has a large rifle, and basically just kind of waiting to see what this guy's going to do.
And hopefully he will surrender, do what they ask him to do, and get out of the car slowly with his hands up, his back to the officers, and we hope that it ends peacefully. And we'll stay a little bit wide just in case. We don't know if this man is armed or the situation there.
Okay, now they're going eastbound. They're now stopping westbound traffic. You see all those cars. That's the situation that CHP does not want to have happen. If for some reason gunfire breaks out, you don't want any bystanders around. You don't want cars driving by. In fact, I think if a move were going to be made, they wouldn't do anything at this point until those cars are stopped going the opposite direction. Because you look at right now, every lane, it's packed going the opposite direction. And they're now slowing down to rubberneck at what's going on in the opposite side of the freeway.
And no doubt they'll stop the traffic on the other side.
If this turns into a situation like we had a few weeks ago in the Corona Pass on the 91, that's exactly what will happen. They will stop that northbound 405 traffic as they stop that southbound side to make sure that the crossfire that you mentioned, Jory, is not an issue, because right now it looks like the suspect is content and not listening to their commands. Again, right now they're using the PA systems on those vehicles to actually call him out of that vehicle, and he is not complying at this particular point. So again, you can see lots of vehicles, like you said, rubbernecking, slowing down on that side. That's something they don't want to see happen.
Yeah, and you can see just...
Did you see that on the northbound, that car that's broken down?
No, but there's a neighborhood right behind there as well. Is there a car broke down?
Yeah, if you just go just to the north, on the northbound side, you see a car that is broken down there. This poor guy did not expect to see this, as he's just probably waiting for help on the side of the road.
If he's going to shelter somewhere, he is on the right side, but I don't know. That might have been a cameraman.
Yeah, it looked like
it might have been someone to stop on the side of the road. Yes, some kind of freelance photographer right there. But as of right now, cars continuing to go by on the westbound side of the 405. Just a dangerous situation. We see a CHP motorcycle officer approaching the scene now. You can see the on-ramp onto the 405 is blocked. Going in the eastbound direction. They're going to work on shutting things down in the westbound side right now. And I imagine we're going to see quite a few more CHP officers join in this situation. But as of right now, you can see officers with guns drawn on the lower unit. There is a gun drawn out of the driver's side door of that Unit 775 on the top side.
And the suspect has rolled down his window, Jory, so perhaps they're being able to communicate with him. Obviously, they have closed down the traffic on the southbound 405, cleared that, but it'll be interesting to see if they are communicating with him.
And Jory and Ellen, I'm actually going to be jumping into our sister ship right now and respond to the scene to relieve our primary ship. So we are on the way, and we'll report to you in the air.
Okay, JT, sounds good. We'll talk to you in just a little bit. It shouldn't take long for once he gets up in the air for JT to arrive on the scene. But here you go. This is you're starting to see CHP officers. You can see on the trunk there that looks like a non-lethal projectile rifle of some sort, maybe a beanbag. If I am correct, I believe that's what that
beanbag or tear gas or something.
Right. We don't know if this suspect is armed, but we are now. It's approaching 1:12, 1:15 here. This pursuit began around 11 a.m., so we're more than 2 hours into it. The pursuit portion has come to an end here on the 405 eastbound, just past the 710, just east of the 710. So we're talking the Cal Heights, Bixby Knolls area. In fact, when the camera pulled back a little bit, we saw a neighborhood just off the freeway here. So that's another thing that CHP officers have to keep in mind should this kind of turn ugly here. We don't know how it's going to really unfold.
And surprisingly, the northbound 405 is still moving, so they haven't been able to block the traffic off of there quite yet. But I suspect they will do that if this continues for any amount of time at all. Right,
I keep saying eastbound. Obviously, it's southbound, but in that down the lower portion of the 405, it is an east-west road at this point. So, it is a 405 south that they are on right now, looking to stop traffic on the northbound 405, which is on the bottom of your screen. So again, just negotiating at this point. We do know, we can see through the driver's side window, there is a phone inside the vehicle. We don't know if this driver is using it at all to talk to anybody. It appeared that the car just simply ran out of gas. It doesn't, nothing seemed to happen. It wasn't an abrupt stop. It rolled for a good half a mile before coming to a stop here. And so now it's just kind of wait and see whether this is going to be a peaceful ending or whether this guy wants to really turn things ugly.
Yeah, what's interesting is that he didn't decide to pull over to the shoulder. You know, he thought, oh, I'm going to make a dramatic, you know, end to this, and I'm going to stop in the middle of the freeway and mess everybody up. But you know, he could have pulled over as he was coasting and decided not to.
Yeah, and you can see the cars now on the northbound side have stopped flowing. I imagine they're going to tell those cars parked on the northbound side to get out of there. That is not a safe situation for them to be in. I'm curious whether they're going to hop the center divide there.
And I think you're right, it was a stringer photographers or
trunk is now closed, and there goes the middle vehicle.
Like,
guys,
get your shot
on out of here, right?
Yes, exactly.
So now 5 vehicles, 4 and a motorcycle here. This is the CHP who are dealing with this situation at this point. At one point, it was Southgate Police in pursuit. They handed things over to the CHP more than an hour ago, and they have it's been CHP's call since then.
And this is a man who was driving, you know, sometimes 90 miles an hour, sometimes the speed limit, pretty erratically speed-wise, and then on the surface streets, quite a few maneuvers that were questionable, and you wonder, you know, how desperate is this man to get away from officers? And
right, we thought this was going to be a relatively peaceful pursuit until he got off the 710 onto Valley Boulevard and then showed immediately, before he even hit Valley Boulevard, he was willing to take some risks and put others' lives at risk, nearly hitting a bicycle, a man on a bicycle, another man who was standing off to the side of the road, and then later nearly sideswiping a car just driving down the road.
And it looked like he did it aggressively, intentionally.
Sure.
You know, so that it wasn't just a, whoops, sorry. It was, it was an intentional,
Once desperation
move.
sets in, you can really see the true motives of what these guys are thinking at that point. And it became clear really quickly that this was not somebody to mess with.
Right.
And we thought it might be a little quieter of a day, but once he did that, we knew this was going to be a little different situation.
And we know, we've heard reports of stolen vehicle. We don't know what else this man might be wanted for, but now, you know, felony evasion and also carrying it on for, you know, more than 2 hours, and some of the traffic violations, and perhaps he's thinking, well, I want to stay free as long as I possibly can.
Yeah, and if that turns out to be a pipe that we saw, once officers move in here and find that could be additional charges if they find illicit drugs that he has on his inside the vehicle, then you're talking even more. So we were talking with JT earlier. Sometimes suspects will do that. If they do have narcotics in the car, they'll either smoke them or get rid of them, just trying to get rid of any evidence that they have. So he might have been doing both. It looked at one point like he was trying to dump things out the window, out of the driver's side window. We couldn't really tell what he was doing, but he was kind of looked like he was trying to jam something out the top of the window. So it may have been both. That was on the 60 freeway, so we're talking quite a while ago.
Looked like he's doing some hand motions. You can kind of see as he says hand out the window.
Yes,
I can't tell.
it is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So officers no doubt want him to just, you know, slowly open the door, get out, get on the ground.
Yeah, but as of right now, door's still closed. It's still a really vulnerable situation for officers here because you can't see what's going on inside of the vehicle. One of his hands may be outside, but you don't know what's going on. You don't know what he has, if anything, in his lap, if he has something in his other hand. What may look like a rather benign situation could turn really dangerous for these guys really quickly, which is why you see each of them behind a door. That's just an extra layer of protection for them should something go awry and maybe a gun come out and start being fired. But that does look like one of his arms is out the window just a bit.
Yeah, and you imagine the adrenaline, standing at attention for that long. We saw that standoff that lasted how many hours did that one last week? This could go on for a long time, and hopefully it will come to a peaceful ending soon because the traffic is going to start. Now it's going to start getting gnarly as people get want to go home and go back to.
Anyone experiencing a nice, smooth ride on your Memorial Day commute just got taken over.
Exactly, and on the worst, possibly the worst freeway that you want to be on.
Okay, we're getting where JT is up in the air now in Air 7 HD. He's coming to relieve this helicopter that's been pursuing this with us for more than an hour. JT, what can you tell us?
Well, right now we are on the way in the sister ship Air 7 HD right now, crossing the Santa Monica Mountains as our primary ship shows you the images that you're seeing right now. Suspect again stopped, his hands out the window, windows are down. My understanding is that he may be communicating with family members on the phone. Again, we need to verify that. But this is a standoff right now. Again, shutting down both directions of this 405 freeway. Just a nightmare for everybody trying to get where they want to be on this holiday weekend. Again, you're going to want to avoid this 405 freeway just near the 710 freeway for this. This could be going on a while depending on what the suspect actually does here. And this is one of those things, and we talked about it earlier. The suspect is determining exactly what is going on here right now, basically telling him that he's not going to give up without a fight. He obviously ran out of gas, or we'd still be going right now. That's probably what had happened there. He's pulled I'm sorry, we're hearing that something's happening right now. The door's cracked open right now. So, Jory and Ellen, I'll give you, since you can see it right now while we're still en route, I'll let you take it from here as we continue to travel towards the scene.
Right, as you can see, he's opening the door slowly. He has both hands so the officers can see it on the side of the door, communicating with them.
And both arms remain outside of the door, outside of the window, despite the fact the door is still ajar. Looks like he is going to get out, and he is now out. And normally in these situations, arms raised, locked, hands locked behind the head, and they want them to slowly back up towards them so nothing can happen. And again, we're going to have this on a really tight,
Tell him to lift his shirt up to make sure he's not armed.
Right. A lot of times they just want them to take their shirts off. And so it looks like that is, lifting up his shirt to show no weapons hidden under there.
So far, all good news here. Doing exactly what the officers are asking him to do, which is all very, very good news.
Yeah,
exactly. Complying right now with everything they're saying.
And there we go. Slowly taking steps backwards towards officers. And typically what happens now is they'll stop, ask them to get down on the ground. They want their arms out. They don't want any sudden movements, obviously. So you talk about the adrenaline that's going on with these guys.
No
well, it just got ramped up another level, and you can see them telling him what to do, giving him verbal commands, want him to back up a couple more steps and come to them.
We know he's not armed. He's complying with their orders, keeping his hands up. Looks like it's ending very peacefully and doing everything they want him to do. Yeah,
and a lot more peaceful of a taken into custody than what we normally see. Right. I don't know if that had to do with any communications that might have been on the phone telling him something, if anyone was talking to anybody, but we usually see them come in really fast and
on the
hard,
ground,
grab their wrists so nothing can happen. Here, pretty peaceful. And so I'd say suspect is now in custody, and I'd say this is exactly how officers wanted to see this end.
And what a relief. Here it is at 1:20 in the afternoon on Memorial Day, and as traffic's going to be picking up, it's ending peacefully, exactly the way the officers were hoping for, and we were hoping to see.
Right. Now, so this is a good situation for them. Now, as far as anyone wishing to get home in a timely manner, if they have to travel on these roads, that's going to take a lot longer. The vehicle still needs to be cleared. The officers don't know what they're going to find inside, but here you can see they don't know if someone might have been hiding in the back seat, maybe in a wheel well or something. There's no way to know until now whether anyone else was in there. Now searching the area around there to see if the suspect maybe threw something out of the window. We saw.
Oh, there's the keys. He had thrown his keys out. Okay.
Right.
So now they're
unlocking the back.
Okay. So keep in mind, this is the 405 right around Long Beach, and so this is the southbound side that is going to be backed up, but also the northbound side is backed up because they had to close traffic off. So keep in mind as you're, might want to stay at your party a little bit longer or stay clear of the 405.
And you know that's going to overflow over to the 710 as well. So again, this is now, we're coming up on almost 2.5 hours this pursuit took place. It began at 11 o'clock, made it as far east as Chino, made it almost out to the airport on the 405, took the 105 out to the 405, has now come to a peaceful end. And so thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. And we're now going to return to Rachel Ray in our regular program.
And we'll see you for Eyewitness News at 4 p.m. All code 4, everything's good.